All right, Storm King's Thunder. We had the conclusion of the Kraken's Gamble tonight, which resulted in a big ass boss fight against Usith, which, big spoilers here for Kraken's Gamble, turns out he wasn't a sorcerer. He was an aboleth. Aboleths are a very strong monster, and they seem to really love them in 5th edition. They throw one of them in like every published campaign, it feels like. Um, so I'm going to talk about having to reuse monsters with the same players because that is what happened tonight. So what does that mean exactly? What it means is this: two of the guys in this group are also in another group of mine, and they were in the group that nearly wiped out fighting an aboleth. So I felt kind of bad that they were going to have to fight another aboleth because I knew that things did not go so well for them in the last aboleth battle. Aboleths are aberrations, and aberrations are very much a save or die thing. There's not a lot of save or die anymore in 5th edition, but aboleths, beholders, mind flayers, they have a lot of that. Make your saving throw or you're stunned. If you made your saving throw, nothing happened. Aboleths have a make your saving throw or you're completely dominated. You're enslaved. You do whatever the thing tells you to do. You kill your teammates. It's horrible. And of course, Mind Flare has a cone attack that dazes you or stuns you, and that is really bad because then they just go and they eat your brain. So yeah, if you make your saves, they're actually pretty boring, easy fights because they can't really do much. But if you don't make your saves, yeah, it's bad. So I was worried. I was like, oh, they're going to see this creature and they're going to flip out. They're going to think that, it's going to be another party wipe. Their morale's going to be low. Here's the thing. It's the same creature type, but it's not the same creature. So it doesn't have to fight exactly the same way. Is it going to try and use its enslave ability? Absolutely. Is it going to try to take advantage of its layer actions? Absolutely. The cool thing about this particular one is it was a totally different fight. This one was supported by some trolls that it had enslaved. There was a cool trap mechanic where the room was being flooded with water. And of course, aboleths can charge water with psychic energy to deal damage to everybody in the water as their layer action. So, of course, being underwater is bad enough, but being underwater with it being charged with psychic energy is really bad. So there was all these mechanics at play, like the trolls were turning the valves to flood the area with water. The players could rush up to the center of the room and turn the valves to drain the water. That's what those DDR arrows are showing. It was pretty cool fight. There was a lot of cool dynamic stuff happening. The fight against Grandfather, the other aboleth I ran earlier this year, was he had a bunch of zombies, like Neolith aboleth zombies. And so that changed the whole fight, right? It was underwater the whole time. There were zombies. There wasn't a lot of physical stuff you could do on the map to change it. It was just a brutal ass fight. And they did terrible in their saving throws. Most of the team got turned. They were killing each other. It was a mess. This fight, they came into it, and right away they got a banish off on the first monster. Moon Druid, don't even get me started, right? Was able to just go in there and tank a troll all by himself, summoned another snake beforehand so he could double snake it. It was crazy. Then they got to the center. They started draining the room. Their instincts were correct. I didn't tell them, like, oh yeah, this will drain the room. They just kind of went with their guts. And they invested the action economy to do that. The room ended up getting drained. While the room was getting drained, Marcus was able to stop the water from coming down. Without water, the aboleth was basically a Magikarp, just sort of flopping around. And while it was a challenge to kill it, it was not nearly the bloodbath super massacre that the last fight was. I I wanted it to feel, especially for the two players that had already fought an aboleth recently, I wanted it to feel like a completely different fight. And I did manage to pull that off. It's important that you don't get stuck in a rut or a routine and you make every fight feel different. As written, most 5th edition dragons, stat wise, are the same monster. Okay? They all kind of look like the same monster. It's only through understanding the lore, reading the descriptions of the monster, and going a little bit further, role playing the monster, that you're able to make it different. So this Useth, his plan was to trap them inside with him, take advantage of the sewer system, that sort of thing. The other one's plan was simply to lure them down and execute them, or have them execute each other. Similar, but different. One of them played real hard from range. He used his minions constantly, and his minions had the ability to turn themselves into healing for him. So he was more of a ranged attacker, taking advantage of his lair actions and slowly wearing down the party. Usith was willing to mix it up in melee. He could drop 3 melee attacks per round thanks to legendary actions, and he had a 21 strength score, so he was not a lightweight. So he was willing to kind of get in there and mix it up. I played them differently to, even though they're the same monster, to create a different feel and a different fight. You really do, as a DM, need to pay attention to that kind of stuff, because eventually every ogre fight is going to feel like every other ogre fight. Every troll fight is going to feel like every other troll fight. That's not necessarily bad. I'm running a campaign where, the main bad guy is giants. They're fighting giants all the time. Is every giant fight that they ever have required to feel completely different? No. They want those fights to feel the same, because the rank and file troops should act the same. That's okay. But like your big boss fights, those are a chance to mix it up and try something new. Whether it's a different location, whether it's a different tactic, whether they're supported by different units, always challenge yourself to kind of mix it up and make things different. So that's all I have to say about this session. Is it's important, if you are running the same type of boss monsters frequently, to find ways to sort of spice that up. Huge props to the writer of Kraken's Gamble. It was a fantastic adventure. It deserves all the awards that it has gotten, and all the accolades and all the purchases from DM's Guild. So if you're running Storm King's Thunder, I highly recommend you pick it up. It would actually make a really good 1 or 2 shot adventure as well. All right, stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. Good night.